Hey, Good Stuff family. This is the Good Stuff Stories on the Road edition. Literally, I just got here. 8 hours in the car from Cleveland, Ohio to Belleville, Illinois. Not far from where I was raised. I'll continue on to St. Louis, just over the border here. But I'm sitting here with a friend who, how we met, it still blows my mind, Jeremy. Um, we if you guys remember from Channel 3, we did a road trip with these good people, the Sykes brothers, Matt and Tim Sykes. Were going to bring all these supplies to Houston from Cleveland. So we decided, why don't we follow them, right? Small problem. They had a flat tire, their U-Haul, remember? And my boss was like, oh, for God's sake, just come back. I said, no way, we're going, we're going to do it. So we stay at a hotel just outside of St. Louis where Jeremy happens to be, Jeremy Watson, by the way, and Carmelita Watson. This is their beautiful home that we're in, and their beautiful kids. But that's where I met him. Do you realize it's been 4 years in August?
Yes.
Where does the time go?
Wow.
But all I knew then was he was this super great guy who was managing this hotel where we had to stay. Do you remember that? Tell me what you remember that take on that.
I remember having the conversation with you and the brothers about what they were doing, and if I remember correctly, they were delivering supplies after a hurricane,
Flooding
after
in
flooding,
Houston.
and our hotel donated sheets and towels, any loose linen that we had, and that was sort of that spark between you and I that has continued until now. So
Yes.
it's
Like I
great.
call it a God wink. Like and this is people who watch these regularly know that okay, so we have the flat tire. I'm doing the live shot by the side of the road, by the highway, at 6 o'clock. And I said, we're going to call this the brothers again. Their last name is Sykes, right? Matt and Tim. I said, we're going to be calling this the For Goodness Sykes Tour from here on out. Remember? It just came out of my mouth, and I'm like, that's good. Write that down. Right? So in that moment, we're tempted. Even my boss was like, really, God? Really? One of those moments. Flat tire. We're doing a good. Now I say, really, God, really? Because I meet this phenomenal, when you hear what this family has been through, like when you meet some people, you just want to keep them close because your life's going to be better for having known them and tapping into that mojo. Completely rooted in faith, And so the big thing we want to talk about in a minute is what his latest venture is, what he's writing these books with all of his kids involved that are legacies because it's helping other kids through his example, right? Especially after the year we had. So we want to get to this. But I would love it if you two, and I'm going to switch this mic to you. It's not highly produced. We say this all the time. It's not like we can be like, hey, Grip, get the mic. Nope, I'm just going to hand it over. And yeah, you can just clip it on your shirt
Okay.
there. It'll be just fine. It's
Thanks,
on.
ma'am.
But walk me through the story about how you guys came to have this beautiful family in this beautiful home,
Oh, gosh.
rooted in faith.
Oh gosh, where do we start? Where do we
started.
start? So my wife and I, we met in 10th grade.
We
We
were in 10th
started
grade.
dating. She loves to say that I was in 10th grade and she was in 11th
Yes.
grade. She was so much older than I am, although I'm older. We met in 10th grade. We had a beautiful courtship.
We
It was
did.
sort of one of those things, that young love where you don't know if the person likes you or not, and but you know that they like you, and then you sort of go back and forth. But do you like me? And will you go with me? And that was our question, or at least my question to her: will you go with me? Because that was the term back then. Is
Back
will you go
way
with
back
me?
in the olden
Yes.
days,
You know,
kids.
we understand now that will you go with me means a journey of life, and that's
Yes.
exactly what we've been on. So that courtship phase and me asking my wife, will you go with me, and she turning me down several times.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
She,
Yes,
She
I
was-
You
did.
almost weren't ever going to be. We're
You
gonna-
Almost. Almost.
disobedient
Until.
wife, disobedient mother. So I kept asking, and I kept asking, then I got to a point where I said, okay, listen, I'm not gonna be single for long. I said
He
somebody's
did.
gonna snatch me up, and on January 5th,
1999.
1999, she finally said yes.
Yes, I did.
And she's been saying yes for a lifetime now.
That is true.
So we began our journey in through marriagehood, and we really, when we say that we learned God together, we all started our faith fairly young, but we learned the magnificence of God together. We grew up in church together. We learned who God was together. So we had that bond that weaving that was really significant for our marriage. And I remember in maybe February of 2010, we had vacation to Savannah maybe the year prior. In 2009, and I woke up one morning just after hearing from God, and I said, "Hey, would you pick up and move to Savannah, Georgia with me? And will you go with me?" It keeps recircling. It keeps circling back every time in our life. So will you go with me?
Yes.
And
That's
she
good.
said yes. Now, by the time at that time, we just had 2 kids. We had Zion and we had Zarin. And Carmelita said yes, and we did not have a job. We didn't know what we were going to. We didn't have any friends. We didn't have anybody that we could live
Support.
with, stay with, any support. And we understood, we began to understand after we moved down there why that was for us. And that was God taking away our crutches and taking away people who use us as crutch and learning and teaching us how to lean and depend on
Yes.
Him.
You're
And that
speaking
was
to
the
me.
biggest
Yes.
and significant lesson of that journey
Yes.
for us. But the funny part of that story is that during that time period, we knew that my wife was pregnant. We just had a feeling
Yes.
something in her body did not feel right. However, she had her monthly cycle.
And I
every
took
month.
pregnancy tests, and
We
they were
took 10 pregnancy tests. 10 pregnancy tests minimum, and they all came back negative.
Spoiler
before we
alert.
moved.
Spoiler
Yes.
alert.
Yes.
Beautiful. Spoiler alert.
We took several pregnancy tests, as I said, and they all came back negative. And when we moved down there, maybe a month into the first month of us moving down
Yes.
there,
Well, you were there first.
but you see if we just backtrack to the beauty of God, we
Go
moved
with
down there
Yes.
without knowing a single soul. My wife trusted me to find housing for the family. Big mistake.
Yes, there
Big
was.
mistake, because me looking through a man's eyes was not. And it's funny because when we moved down there, the landlord he says, "Well, don't sign the lease until your wife comes and sees the property." And sure enough, she came down. She said, "We can't live
I was
here.
like, what are you thinking?
What are you thinking? We
How
can't
are we
here."
gonna live here?
But the beauty about it is that we didn't know a single person in Savannah, Georgia. But God,
Yes.
when I tell you that when we moved, God had people come out like on the streets. He had Jehovah Witnesses
Yes.
in gowns and high heels moving couches
Yes.
on our behalf.
Yes.
And just the many people that He brought to bless our lives. It was God saying, "You don't know." Exactly what God did was
Yes,
brought
He
the
did.
multitude to our doorstep
Yes.
to help us and encourage us. And a month into us moving in there, we found out she was pregnant. My wife
Yes,
was
because
pregnant.
I was like, it's something wrong.
She's
I
like,
know I'm pregnant. It
be
has to
something
be.
wrong. And we found out she was pregnant, and maybe 6 months into it, we found out she was pregnant with
With twins.
Twins.
Yes.
These two beautiful
Yes.
twins right here.
Oh,
Yes.
Lord. And you talking about a shock.
Look at them.
What?
You talking about a shock.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So faith.
Yes, ma'am.
Faith. And then when I came to meet you, you were working as a manager.
Mhm.
But what? Give me a kind of a window into what led up to this. This was always on your heart. Raising these kids, knowing what kids go through, their identity. Where is your identity? For these kids, it's in Christ, right?
Yes.
And then you end up writing these books with them. So tell me about them, because not only are they this family's legacy, they're giving to other families, to other kids, to realize what is pretty. A book of affirmations. I read through this. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's all these drawings and sayings, because you know what the kids are up against. And
Yes.
so what a lot of parents, what do? What do you do? What this family does is ends up making a whole series of books that are going to end up helping other kids down the road. So let me give me a window into that, how that came
Wow.
to be.
I think for us, we've always been people who affirm and believe in affirming words to our children. For the longest, we had on our walls just affirmations that we made them read. They didn't want to read it, but we made them read it.
Zion,
on
give
a
me an
daily-
example of one. Give me an example. What's one of those affirmations you remember, like early on?
Dang.
Mama, you can hold the mic. We're just going to do like round robin. Like one that kind of sustains you now.
Dang, I don't even know. I don't even know, to be honest. It's honestly a lot. It's like,
Did they make you memorize them?
yeah, they did. They did. We had to read them every day, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly
How
can't
did
tell
it
you
help you
one.
though, having those things in your face all the time, reminding you of where, who?
It helped. Oh my, I'm sorry, but it helped me grow faster. Made me become more mature and mindful of my decisions and stuff. I'm very thankful that they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old are you now, Zion?
17.
17.
About to be 18 on November 7th. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
and here's your sisters like answering for you. I love it. And I wish that we could clone these kids, right? And spread them all over
Yes.
because they have a foundation. So the hope is, yes, so you started out putting affirmations
Yeah.
because you knew that these kids were going to be rooted in faith.
Yes. And the more that you hear a thing, the more that you believe a thing. And the world has a way of telling a person who they are, but before they go out into the world, it was important for us to establish who they are. Not just who we see them as, but who God sees them as. And understanding when God says you are beautifully and wonderfully made, that trumps anything that anybody could ever say
Yes.
about you. My thinking you beautiful does not compare to God thinking you and saying that you are beautiful and wonderful. And that is what we wanted to root inside of our kids. And that is why we built books and created stories based around our kids to not just show them who they are in Christ, but for them to actually see their actualized pictures with their actualized names that they can take hopefully to their children and to their children's children. And that's building that generational legacy that we want to carry onto our children.
Like I say, this is not highly produced, but what I'd like to do, I'm going to grab this camera so it'll be a shaky for a bit, you guys. But I'm going to show you these pages, okay? Maybe you could read a couple
Oh,
so that
absolutely.
you can see exactly what we're talking about here. This, when you sent me this in the mail, I had goosebumps because it's so, we always think, oh, we're powerless. What can we do? Everything's wrong with the world. Guess what? It's not. You just have to be the what you, let's see. Let me switch the camera around here. One moment, please. Camera. People are watching right now. They're joining in going, what is going on? Participants. Look here. I'm going to do this for now until I figure it out. Let's see. Let's see. Can you see it? There? Yeah. Okay. Read that to me.
And this is one that I really love for Israel, if she doesn't mind singing it for me.
Oh,
She sings this
do it.
affirmation
Do
to
it.
me.
Go ahead, Izzy.
I'm in the way.
You wanna do it
Well,
That's the
together?
one. I look in the mirror.
I'm gonna push this on camera.
Oh, you want me to hold it?
This is hilarious. I know people are like, what is going on? But I told you, it's not highly produced, but it's good stuff, you guys. Okay, let's see. So there's the camera. Let's do more. One moment. Settings, camera, and then let's flip it. Here we go. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it.
You remember it. This is the one you sing so beautifully.
Back camera. Done. Here we go.
All right, Izzy.
1, 2.
There it is.
I look in the mirror and this I come to understand. There can be no flaws in a woman shaped by God's hands. If he said I was beautifully made, then that has to be true. So there can be no flaws as he has made those beautiful too.
I love
And that is one of my favorite moments in the mirror, is just reminding us all that there's no flaws in us. God, the God who made us beautifully and wonderfully made us, how can there be flaws in us? So the nose, the eyes, the shape, the everything was meant to be. And that is the purpose of that moment in the mirror, and that's one of my favorite ones. And my daughter, she sings it so beautifully, even though she was a little nervous.
That was
I just
so
love when
cool.
she sings that.
And
Absolutely.
Israel, there's reason for Israel, her name, correct?
Yes. It
Israel?
is real.
Uh-huh.
Because he is real.
Izzy.
Look at how beautiful these kids are. Because they shine from within,
Yes,
Mama.
indeed.
How proud are you guys?
Very proud.
Very.
They are solid,
They are.
beautiful kids.
They
They're
are.
beautiful kids.
And then name of this one is
What is Pretty, a Book of Affirmations. And
and this is the beach.
this is the beach. This is dedicated to my oldest daughter, Zion. I'm sorry, my
Zorin.
oldest daughter, Zorin. And it just details about her first favorite place, which is the beach.
Yep.
All of this photography was taken through our journey through the South. And that's my daughter, just some of the photography that I've taken of
Wow.
her in the past. And it just talks about the beauty of the beach and her favorite place, and she's thanking God for just giving her a place to go. And she hopes that everybody could go to such a beautiful place. Really what started the books is a single note left by my son,
After we
Ian.
prayed.
After we prayed, and Ian left us a note and said, you remember what the note said?
Oh, for
It's
Pete's
okay.
sake, that's the next thing we're going to show is the projects that you guys are doing. I'm not going to be invited. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
It was a simple note that said, thank God for making people with color, because without color, the world would be blank like paper.
Yes.
And that really sparked the fire into me to write the first book that was published September 2019 that was called If the World Was Without Color. And I just pretty much took his note and just expounded upon it a bit just to bring his words to life, where it just says, if the world was without color, it would be like a blank page, still and motionless with no beauty to engage. And so it just tells the story, and again, it details Ian beautifully, I think, with just photography that we took from our journeys back in the South. So, and that's my little baby. Thank you.
And it's here's the thing that strikes me though too. It's from real parents of real kids keeping it real.
Mhm.
It's real. It is real.
Ian,
Right? And
Yes.
what a great kind of, we say there's no playbook in life. Kind of there is when parents can share what's working for them. This
Yes.
is kind of a playbook
Yes,
for
indeed.
other parents.
Yes, indeed. And this is Dance, Izzy Dance, and this is a book literally about worship. It's Israel having a conversation with God about how she chooses to worship Him, and her choice of worship is exemplified in dance. And so she just dances throughout the story, and she talks to God and just explains to God why she loves to worship Him in the way that she chooses to. Each of the books, because we love to read to our kids and we know that interaction is important, each of the books has sort of dialogue for parents to have with the kids, like find 3 scriptures for you to memorize about praise and worship. Ian Books has information about what's your favorite color. Let's write a poem together. Draw a picture of everything that you see in the room. What is Pretty has a journal in the back, and it has also some other things in the back for parents to gauge with their children. And even the beach has information that says, what's your favorite place? Talk about your favorite place. So in each of the books, again, is writing and conversation prompts for parents to have with children, again, to interact with your children and make it more than just a story, but a conversation, which is very, very important.
Yeah. And so can I just get you guys really quick, and you can answer together if you want. When you see, you're probably talking about these books, how does that make you feel? Give me what your reaction is, knowing how important these might be for other kids now.
Good and proud.
Good
Oh.
and proud. Wow,
good.
you just nailed it. Good and proud.
Yes.
Yeah? What about you, Israel? What are you thinking?
Happy.
Yeah. Because when you sing that song, that's how you make others feel. We feel your happiness. Yeah?
Indeed.
What can I ask you guys? What is God for you?
A father.
Yes.
Right.
Life.
Life.
I love that.
And a
Yeah.
creator.
He
Yes,
is. He
And when
is.
she says his father, and then here you are, this
Yes.
good example of a
Yes,
father,
gosh.
right?
What is God
And-
to you?
What about for you guys over there, the older kids? What does it
Healer.
mean for you?
Mhm.
Yeah, healer.
A forgiver.
Yes, he is.
Forgiver. Yes. And here it is Sunday, and I feel like I'm at church.
Uh,
Church can be wherever you want
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yes,
And
it
I
is.
saw it in following your story, you guys, on Facebook. Can you tell people how they can go about ordering these books?
Yes, absolutely. Each of the books are available on Amazon.com, and you can go to my website, JeremyCWatson.com. That's JeremyCWatson.com, and you can have links for each of the books and each of the projects that we are currently working on. So there's 3 books that are dedicated to my children. There's a fourth book dedicated to my 4th kid, which is called A Star in the Day Still Shines, and that is dedicated to my oldest son Zion, and that's going to be coming out really, really soon. So,
I remember I read a little bit Barb, about it.
yes.
Okay, so if I can get up, I might have to stay here. Give me a moment, keep my knees back straight. But I want to show people really quickly, when I walked into this home, this is, like I say, when you just feel the energy. And it's because it's coming from
That's it.
somewhere.
And them steps.
Should we?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, me.
I saw this, look at the picture. Oh my goodness. Love it. I just love it. Look, this is a home where these kids are loved and where Faith has the front seat, you know. In fact, here, look at this, everything is cute.
He said everything.
Faith, this is all my
Name of
stuff.
Jesus.
Look, so it's right there, like, and you feel it. Look.
Yes.
And so Carmelita
Ooh.
decides, my soul thirsts for God. Hold on, sorry. I'm not kidding. This is like, I really think it's like a magnolia.
We do.
Right, so By These Hands.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the name of the company then. Let's go back
In the dining room? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little, again, not highly produced, but, I mean, right
When
when
we
you
started
walk
about a
in,
year ago for
here
By
it
These
is.
Hands. Oh, Lord.
That one is missing because I took it down.
What? Which is gonna be.
There you go. We're gonna use, that's the thing that fell over a few minutes ago. It sounded like I fell over. So what's that say? Someone read it for me?
Right.
The Spirit of God?
The Spirit of God, who raised Jesus from the dead, lives in you. Romans 8:11.
And so these are available for
Yes.
sale. Like,
Yes.
This family's not great enough as it is. Now you're like entrepreneurs, and it
Yes,
comes
ma'am.
from, just from this place of being rooted.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me more about that.
You?
Well, it started, for wreaths for me, started just as a hobby, just to do wreaths on our door. And then my cousin, she brought up the idea, and she was like, look on YouTube. And I did that, and then they just got better, and we just started selling them. And it's been great. And then we just ventured off to woodwork, working for Jeremy, and I don't know. It's been good.
You guys are so creative. This
you.
behind you, you made this as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So people can order this too?
No, that's
No.
not. We can make that.
We can
available.
make that if they would like to purchase it. Yes. Yes.
It's so
We pretty much made
And
everything.
the wreaths that are on the table,
Yeah, this and the pretty much everything that you see we
Yes.
built.
the lamps.
Right,
all
because
the
I watch you on
woodworking.
Facebook, I'm like, how is he just like, turn stuff into stuff like, he's like a miracle worker. Right? Look at all the
Yes.
kids, again, the centerpiece of this home, right?
They
And
are.
this says hello family, hello friends, and I'm counting myself among those right
Yes, you are.
now. I know where you live, and I'll be back.
Yes.
And like, oh no, she's back again. But I'm actually a proud owner of one of these, and it's that song that I can never get out of my head.
Oh, Waymaker. Yes.
No.
Darkness, yes, my God, yes, that is who you are. That's one of my favorite songs. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of my favorite phones
Yes.
too.
So I have that, and I'm giving one to a friend.
Yes.
So it'll be the
Yes.
gift that keeps on giving. But is there anything else, when you know that people will be watching this, that could use some renewed hope?
Yes.
Family,
Mm.
struggles,
Mhm.
conflict, right, you know, what would you like to say to people who are listening right now? You don't pretend to have it all figured out.
Oh gosh,
No, we
What
don't.
is it? What is it that
No,
sustains
no,
this
no, no.
beautiful family?
I think that one of the biggest things that we learned, as I mentioned before, is to rely and trust on God. And I think
Yes.
that is why God pulled us away from our family and our support. Because the fact of the matter is that if we would have known that we were going to be the parents of 4 small children back in 2010, we would not have made the decision to relocate 1,000 miles away from all of what we knew was our support
Jobs
system.
and everything.
Jobs and everything. And that was really God's way of tuning us into who He is, in that we don't need to rely on mother-in-law or father-in-law or sisters and brothers. We have to become fully reliant upon Him and
each
who
other.
He is, and each other. We had to learn to build and instead of me calling my mom and her being my crutch, or her being calling her best friend and letting her best friend be her crutch, we literally had to learn how to support one another. And that was God's true intent on getting us out of the midst of so many people and into his presence. So one of the things that we learned down there is that he is a supplier of need.
Yes.
And he supplied our needs according to his riches and glory every single time. And so when we make faith moves, that's why we make faith moves. And that's why
'Cause we
faith
know.
moves are so
Yes.
important in your walk with Christ, is because you need to walk by faith for you to see who God truly is. And when we made that move, God showed us who he is. So our message to any couple is to find out who you are in Christ, and believe him. Believe the words that God has said about you. When he said that you are the head and not the tail, that you are above and not beneath, he means that thing, and nobody can pull that away from you. And it took us it took us 700, 800 plus miles to get away and to really soak in his presence, and for him to reiterate just who I am. This is who I am. I am more than what you thought I was. If I could just go back to a story that I was frustrated. I was managing a hotel in Florida, and I remember just going to work every day, just frustrated, just frustrated, working long hours. And I remember God speaking to me and said, "It's time to go." And I said, "Okay, it's time to go. Okay." So God said, "You can go, but you have to touch and agree with your wife." And so I remember standing on the hotel steps, and I called my wife. I said, "God told me I can go." The pressure you put us men put on our women.
I know you're not saying no.
Right.
Right. I'm like, the Lord said I can go, but you have
Yes.
to touch and agree with us. Now, mind you, we were paying $1,500 in rent. Our bills were not going to stop just because God
I
told
didn't
us.
work.
She was not. She was a stay-at-home
I was a
mom.
stay-at-home
We have
mom.
4 small kids, and she swallowed her pride and said, "Go." And so I left. And God, when I tell you God showed up and showed out for us, that every bill was paid,
Yes, it
every
was.
need was met, and people began to bless our lives, not knowing our story, but people began to bless our lives. And I remember waking up one morning, and I said, every blessing that came by way of a person. So we could say, "Thank you, Don, for that. Thank you, so-and-so, for that." But I remember specifically, I woke up and I told Crumley, I said, "God said he's going to bless us, and there will be nobody to thank but him." And so we wake up to a knock on the door.
We went,
Lady who we have never met walks into our house, and she says, "I've been looking all over for you." She's like, "Somebody gave me something to give you, and all I knew is the area that you, or all they knew was the area that you lived in." So this woman on Christmas Eve,
I believe it was Christmas Eve. We visited Tapestry Church.
yes, and she drove up
Yes.
and down the street just looking, and she could not find a car. She couldn't find the van that we drove back then, and so she was about to give up after spending a while looking for our house. And then she happened to see a person in our neighborhood coming out of the house, and she says, "I don't know their names." She says, "I just know that they have a lot of kids, and they drive a blue van, and it just so happens that the person, right when she was about to give up, knew who we were and
Yes.
said, 'Oh, that family stays on that street at that
In-house,
house.'"
yes.
And she comes to knock on the door, and she has a gift card, and she says, "This is anonymous gift card. Somebody just wanted to bless you and give you this gift card," and it was for like almost $1,000. And when that lady closed that door, we just shouted and
Yes, we
praised
did.
God and worshiped God, because we knew that there was nobody that we could connect the thank you to but him. So he took out the middleman, and he says, "This is me. This is my grace. This is my mercy. And if you are obedient to me, I promise you, I will do what I said that I would do, and that's supply your needs." So
I know that
He
you're going
has
to speak
done
to
it.
so many people. You already have, but just by sharing. Who needs to hear that today? Who's going to, or watching this in the future, who needs to hear? I'll tell you right now, like me personally, everything, the really God moments, to just stand in faith for the, really God,
Yes.
really. It's really the same words and a whole different perspective.
Yes.
and to keep uplifting each other. That's what the good stuff family stories are. Real, raw, genuine, authentic, and vulnerable, uplift, encourage, and inspire. That's exactly what y'all have
Amen.
done. And I would like to try to flip this around to end this with you, but I'm gonna go ahead and not do that. But let me just say that on the way here, even on the way here, the cell phone wasn't charging. I had to get the laptop out. I finally figured that out in the last couple hours, so it worked. Obviously, we're coming to you all live now. But honestly, a friend of mine's father just passed away a couple weeks ago, and a woman at the funeral gave these to their family, and they count me as family, these little crosses that you hold in your palm. Have you ever seen them? So my mama has one. And anyway, this happened to be in my car in the council. I'm looking for the car charger, and I held this all the way here, and I'm like, this is appropriate. This is appropriate where we're going. And sometimes things seem so big, and they're really not. Nothing's
Yes,
too big for
yes,
God.
yes.
And this was nothing, but I'm like, oh, heck no, I am not canceling this. I've been waiting 2 years to meet this family. And lo and behold, here I am. I think I have 5 miles left on my tank of gas, so you're going to have to like meet me at the gas station. But I truly am inspired by you guys, and I know it is not an accident that God wove our paths together, and I'm so
Yes.
grateful for you. I'm just so very grateful for you.
And that's for you.
And I can't wait to see how we say God weaves, now watch him work, and I think that is exactly what has happened here. So
Yes.
again, if you want to order the books and feel like family the way I do with this family, again, one more time, Jeremy C. Watson.
JeremyCWatson.com. JeremyCWatson.com. You'll find our website.
And then
Yes.
for the buy these hands for good, all this great stuff you see in their house, how do they go about? That's Etsy, right?
Yes, there's a link on my website that will take you directly to where you can buy these things from.
There you go.
Yep.
Perfect.
And the
Okay.
Indeed.
Now, what about you guys? I know you're waiting patiently, and I can tell. Stein has something to say. Anything? You got anything? Anything?
I'll say I'm very thankful for my parents. They really made us we've matured pretty fast over these years, and we are very respectful. Very respectful. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for my brothers and sisters too. I'm glad I'm not the only child, because I feel like I'll be. I said this many times.
Bored?
See, I'm not. I try to tell myself I'm not emotional, but I'm pretty thankful for my family. Like, definitely. Okay, definitely.
And what happens? You'll go on to be a good dad, and your kids will go on to be a good dad, and that's how it works. And we just keep leaning on each other by example. Like you guys set the bar high, right? And so, Zarin, how about you? What are you thinking right now, sweetie, through all this?
Well,
What do you want to say to other kids too? Because it's hard being a kid right now. Do you have any advice that you've learned?
be confident.
Confident. There it is. There it is. Yes. And in your own beautiful skin, whoever we're talking to see the value the way God sees the value. And that's what you kids show everyone, right? Do you guys have anything, Israel?
Trust in God.
Trust in God. She's a woman of few words, but she nails it every time. 3 words again,
Yes.
right? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Be strong. Be confident. Stay strong. Wait, hold on. Be brave, but believe in yourself. So never give up, and always remember to say I love you back. And thank you.
I wish I could order one of each of these kids. I just wish I could. Can I order that on their Etsy page? That would be great. All right. Well, 1,000 thank yous. And if you're watching, you know what? Choose courage. Right?
Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
Because it's all part of a divine plan. And together we can, together we will.
Yes.
Amen.
All right. God bless.
Yes.
I might not be leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, I know.
I love this house so much. All right. Bye, guys.